I think it is important once again to stress that we as parents, society, kindergarten, school, politicians, whatever, we decide what kind of frustration should children have and which kind should they not have. We know that they are now, when we look at the brain and how the brain likes to function and likes to develop, we know that our school system, for instance, all over Europe, is terrible. It's simply we get a lot less out of the children than we could do, because it is simply traditionally made in a way that makes it as difficult as possible for children to learn. And the big question is there a political will to do that? Probably not. I don't know if the will is there, but I'm sure they would say the money are not there. And also, is this kind of flexibility, this curiosity, this ability to play, this knowledge of what is good for me, what is bad for me, is that the kind of citizens that you want? Or do you want citizens who are, group animals, who will, do like the neighbor? And so it's very critical what kind of decisions we make. It's not a question of freedom or not freedom, or democracy or not democracy. It is it's far more complicated and also detailed questions. When is it okay? When I tell my 2.5-year-old grandson, I'm not going to play very much with you today, you have to find your own, you have to play with yourself most of the time. He looks at me, and because he's in that age, he says, no. And then he goes play by himself. So that's leadership, that's called. Am I depriving him of anything? Yes, my company. Is that important for him? I don't think so. I think playing is more important. The next one is that he looks to me like it's time to sleep. And I tell him, let's go sleep. And he says, no, I'm not tired. Okay. But can I decide when you sleep, or do you want to decide when you sleep? And he says, you can decide. And I say, okay, I decide you sleep in 10 minutes. And he says, 10 minutes later, he doesn't want to sleep. I say, you made the wrong decision. You don't want me to decide, you want to decide for yourself. He says. I say, that's okay. Anytime you need me to get to bed, call me. And it takes 4.5 minutes, and he calls me and says, I want to go to sleep now. So this is a learning process, much more than it is a power struggle of what is going on. And this learning process is much better for him, much better for his brain, much better for our relationship, and much easier for me than to have all this fighting. So it's nice to know all these things about the brain. I think it's fantastic to know that so much knowledge is available. But there's still very, very important decisions to be made by parents. And they are, as I said, they are of a moral nature, they are of an ethical nature. What do you want to do? If you believe, many parents still believe that violence is a good thing. It's not only necessary, but it's good for children. One of the things that psychology and neuroscience agree on is that is definitely not true. It is damaging. So, not only to social skills and interpersonal skills, but also almost brain damaging. So we have to decide that as parents. Do I want that? Do I not want that? I have believed that My parents were beating me, they were being beaten by their parents, and it didn't do us any damage that we noticed. but because the dangerous thing about being a child is that not only can they adapt to everything, they can survive anything. They can survive much, much, much more than most adults. They can survive much more stress, much more pressure, much worse living conditions than most adults would be able to survive. So we have a huge responsibility.